Hey, what up, y'all? This is Mongo. Okay, right now we're going to talk about the absolute state of EC3 and the very bizarre EC3 fandom. Recently, Chris Jericho put up a picture of him and EC3 at some type of restaurant or something like that, and as what one could expect, people got really excited at the idea of EC3 jumping ship from WWE to AEW or All Elite Wrestling, and I don't care. Ultimately, the EC3 experiment has been a huge failure, partly due to WWE. Well, in WWE, it's been almost 95% WWE never giving him absolutely anything to do, babyface or heel. They did what is the cardinal sin or the mark of death when it comes to a pro wrestler is they did not put him on TV. He has not been on TV since January. He does occasional 24/7 title stuff, but other than that, he has not been in any storylines. I don't think he's ever even been in a squash match on TV within the last several months. He just has not done absolutely anything anywhere on any roster in the WWE in literal months. So, oddly enough, he still has fans. So, which is, I guess, is the power of being an interesting sort of character. But I've never been that interested in the EC3 character, mainly because the EC3 character, which was born in TNA, for people who don't know, the original idea of the character is that he was a stuck-up brat who was the nephew of the owner of the company, who was Dixie Carter, and that's where the EC3 means Ethan Carter the third was supposed to be the son of Dixie's brother, I think. So he was Dixie Carter, Ethan Carter the third. So he won the TNA World Championship. He was a pretty good character. He was a pretty good character in TNA, I guess. His shtick was basically to be a sarcastic, sharp kind of heel, where he basically was able to cut down the audience pretty good, and he was pretty good on his feet as far as verbal jousting and stuff like that is concerned. Um, there were people who were better than him at cutting promos and stuff like that, so he wasn't like the best, but he wasn't the worst either. So it's 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 a mixed bag. And as far as the wrestler is concerned, he is a wildly mediocre wrestler. I mean, he's a bulky guy because he's very muscular. So his style is really kind of slow and technical. It works for the gimmick, I guess, but it's not the flashy, exciting style that people on TV want to really, really kind of grab onto. Not saying that it couldn't work. It's just I don't really think that he's a great in-ring worker. He's a decent microphone worker and probably bigger than anybody that they would put with him to make him a manager. So, but there's now all this talk that he's going to jump to AEW and he's going to be uh, awesome there and all this stuff. For starters, I don't know when his contract is over, so I don't know if that's even possible anytime soon. But let's just talk about EC3. From my understandings of EC3, his character is very similar to old school Chris Jericho, which again is the exact same character as The Miz and the exact same character as MJF. Uh, the thing is, he's very redundant in a way, and so again, that character already exists in the WWE and it exists in the form of The Miz, and it already exists in the form in AEW in the form of MJF. Now, it does not exist in other places like MLW, for instance. So if he were to leave the WWE, I think that probably would be a better place for him is to go to like MLW or something. I mean, the guy is 36, 37 years old or something like that. So he's not a spring chicken. He's also not ancient. So he still has something to bring to the table, but he's not going to be in the sweet spot of being able to, The Miz has tenure in WWE and MJF have youth in AEW. He's young. MJF is young. He's going to grow. The Miz has been there for a long time. He's got institutional knowledge. He's not going anywhere. So it's going to be hard to get a similar character over in either one of those companies without it seeming like it's the same guy doing the same gimmick. And you can see this in if you watch NWA Power, where you have Ken Anderson and Eli Drake, which are essentially the same character. They're both doing the loud talking guy, a lot of catchphrases. Eli Drake is phenomenal, and he's killing it down there in NWA. And you see that there's one guy who's kind of aged. The Ken Anderson is kind of aged. He can't really do the bants anymore, and Drake is on top of his game. So even though they're sort of redundant, you see that Eli Drake gets a lot more TV time. He gets a lot more interest. He gets a lot more fan interest. People talk about what Eli Drake is doing a lot more because he's younger, for starters, and he's simply better at it. So if you have two people on the same roster who essentially do the same thing, you're going to end up tiering them in a way where one's going to be of lower tier than the other. So even if you were to do that, that would be WWE would probably be the best place for him to get away with being a redundant character, because you could always put him on SmackDown, or you could always put him on NXT. NXT would probably be a good place for EC3 because they don't really have that character, that smart aleck, sarcastic, witty sort of character. They don't really have that on NXT. They don't really have a lot of good mic workers down in NXT, period. And it would be a good place for him if that's what they wanted to do. And I think that would probably be the best place for him. But he has had a very short run in NXT before he was brought up in January of last year, where he was summarily embarrassed by Dean Ambrose, and then he just instantly was turned into a jobber. I think he probably won one match on Raw, and that was it. I think he pinned Dean Ambrose once. But is all of this WWE's fault? Of course it is. They haven't got... Look, I'm not saying that EC3 is the best or that he's one of the best. All I'm saying is that he has not been given a chance. I don't know if he's improved over the last 2 years. Like, I can only judge based off of what I saw in TNA, which was a long time ago. I don't know. People get better, people regress. I don't know if he's better now than he was before because they haven't been using him. But the worst thing, the cardinal sin of wrestling, is you not putting a guy on TV. You're not giving him anything. You're not giving him any opportunity to fail or succeed. And that's the worst thing. It's one thing for them to put you in a position to fail and you succeed, despite that. It's another thing for you not to even have an opportunity to fail. And I think that every guy that you sign to a contract, regardless, deserves the opportunity to at least fail. And it'd be one thing if he was a complete and total failure. And a lot of people are very critical of EC3's wrestling matches, his actual in-ring stuff from when he was in NXT. Say he didn't really have any good matches in NXT. I haven't gone back and watched them because I actually didn't remember that he wrestled Velveteen Dream until somebody on Twitter mentioned it. I don't remember him wrestling a couple of the people that he wrestled in NXT because I've never been a big fan of EC3 as a wrestler. So if he goes to AEW, will that be a good thing? It'd be good for AEW to have another mic performer, and he could certainly help get somebody over. He's decent enough on the microphone, and he's been at the top of. He was at the top of Impact, but or TNA at the time. But he's a guy who's worked in the main events. He's worked at the top. He was kind of what would be I wish I knew more about fishing, because this would be like a perfect time to bring the the big fish, small pond metaphor. But TNA was not really he's not really a big fish. He's kind of like a medium-sized fish in a goldfish bowl. Like Impact or TNA is still very small, and he came across as a star because the company was so small and there was not a lot of people there. And then this was also around the time where a lot of the more higher named TNA guys started to leave, like Kurt Angle and Sting, Jeff Jarrett was gone. So they kind of had to really lean on him. But he was brought in with a lot of the other TNA guys like Eric Young and Robert Roode. to NXT, and they've pretty much just used the TNA guys as doormats. You know, the best of them is Robert Roode. See, I don't care about Eric Young or EC3. Neither one of them were my cup of tea as far as TNA performers. But Robert Roode was my dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't see why they don't push him. But again, this is not about them. But not giving a guy a chance is really unfair. I don't see the purpose of signing a guy to a contract if you're not even going to give him the chance to fail. At least give him the chance to fail. Put him out there. Let him cut his promo. If it doesn't work out, then you say, well, you had your 2 minutes, your 90 seconds, and you failed. But if it does work out, then you have a new star, you know, or at least somebody who could put other people over. I mean, it's nonsense either way. But if he jumps ship to AEW, I wouldn't mind. It's not going to be a huge loss. Yes, it's partially WWE. Well, it's mostly WWE's fault for not giving the guy an opportunity, but it's largely EC3 simply not being all that good and seemingly not improving. Is he humorous and funny and stuff? Well, he can be. He was pretty funny in a couple of online things that I've seen him do. He was pretty funny in the Drake Maverick, which is the only thing he actually did. He did a small part in the Drake Maverick 24/7 title storyline, where we thought that EC3 was going to end up banging Drake Maverick's wife, but they ended up just dropping that, and now he was running around with red cups, which was something akin to maybe an alcoholic storyline or something like that. And then the Street Profits came up and they were doing the red cups, and now EC3 doesn't have anything. So it's just a mess, and it's unfortunate. And I think the guy has something. I just can't tell if he's improved or not because I haven't seen him recently. He might have wrestled on Main Event or something. I don't watch Main Event. I don't go searching for Main Event. So it's hard, but I don't understand where all these fans are coming from. Like, where do all these supporters, like, I understand some people kind of liked TNA and maybe liked his TNA run, or, you know, maybe they just looked at his Wikipedia and saw that he was a world champion in TNA and was like, oh, this guy could be world champion anywhere. And it's like, no, it doesn't really work that way. But this is an absolute disaster. The EC3 experiment has been an absolute disaster so far, and I don't see it changing. Maybe he was and there was a lot of talk before that he was in the doghouse from some personal stuff. I don't want to speculate on that because I don't know whether that's true or not. But if that was the case, they should have just released him. Having a guy show up to work every day and you not doing anything with him is so incredibly petty and unfair. If he rubbed somebody the wrong way, just release the guy, let him go. But EC3 isn't one of these guys like the Revival. I will give him credit for that. He's not like the Revival, where he's constantly asking to leave and, you know, wanting to, you know, and Mustafa Ali is the same way. Like, Mustafa Ali is a guy who's been shooting his own promos and putting them up on Twitter, and EC3 also does the same thing. Occasionally EC3 will post something on Twitter, you know, a meme or something like that, to remind people that he still works there, because heaven forbid he actually gets put on fucking TV. Okay, so I've talked enough about this. I don't care about EC3, whether he goes to AEW or not. I don't see it as a big catch for AEW if he does. I would be pleasantly surprised if it actually matters. We'll see if he actually gets released. He's a mediocre talent as far as I'm concerned. He is somewhat witty. He can't think on his feet. Maybe he's gotten better on the microphone and better in the ring, but I don't know because I haven't had any opportunity to see him. But I just decided I was going to weigh in on this. You guys, feel free to weigh in the comment section. Hit like, share, and subscribe. And I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.